Wylach chi, Mrs George, hwyl am y tro. Well, bore da. Good morning to you. I am William Rosser, the enumerator. What am I doing here? Well, I'm on very important work, you know, for Her Majesty Queen Victoria. My job is an enumerator, collecting all the information from the people of Swansea for the census. Have you heard of it? Well, let me explain. Do you know the story of the first Christmas and the baby Jesus? Mary and Joseph had travelled to Bethlehem from their hometown of Nazareth. The emperor had ordered everyone to return to their hometown where they'd been born, to be counted. That is what a census is, a way to count people and find out about them. And this year, 1851, our Queen has asked for another census, because the population of Swansea is growing, especially here, yes. People are coming here from all over Britain, from all over the world, and the town is growing like a mushroom. There's money to be made here on the ships that sail to South America, around the Cape Horn that fetch back copper ore, and in the works here that turn that ore into sheets of copper, which we sell all over the world. That is why Swansea is called Copperopolis, even as far away as America. Of course, if there's money to be made, then people will want to spend it. New shops are opening here all the time. So it's important for us to know all about the people who now live here. And that is my job. I take special forms with important questions to every house in my area. People fill in the answers and I collect them later. What questions? Well, names, addresses, ages. But of course, I find out much more about the people than that. Everyone has their own story. Would you like to know about some of the people I meet? Where shall I start? How about the John family in Morris Lane? The first thing I noticed when I walked up the very narrow lane was the smell. And by the time I reached their house at number 2, I was coughing a little. I knocked on the door. When I knocked, Mrs. John answered. And when I told her I had a form for her to fill in, she looked upset. And I learned that she could neither read nor write. So I offered to sit with her at her small wooden table and help her fill in the form. As I sat, I noticed the room was dark because it only had one small window. There was hardly any furniture. The floor was just cold flagstones. I asked my questions and wrote down her answers. The family were not from Swansea, but had moved here from Carmarthen. She lived in the house with her husband, Evan, and her 5 children, all under 10. Evan is a labourer in the White Rock Copper Works, she said. 3 of my children also work there for 12 hours each day. Evan is not paid much, so he must scrimp and save. Even with 3 lodgers living with us, I still can't afford to send the children to school. If I had the room, I'd have more here. But the house is so small, she said. In fact, there was only one room upstairs that the lodgers slept in, and the dark room in which we were sitting served as their living room, sitting room, kitchen, bathroom, and an extra bedroom too. Where is your toilet? I asked. Oh, none of these houses in this street have got one of those, sir, We must use that bucket in the corner, and when it's full, the children must go and empty it in a pit at the bottom of the street. When that is full, it sometimes overflows into the stream where we get our fresh water. Only then did I realize what the stink was when I arrived. Life is indeed hard for the people of Swansea. There is no wonder so many suffer ill health. Of course, it's not just the shortage of fresh water and the sewage problems. There's the smoke from the copper works making things even worse. Many people suffer terribly with bad chests and find it hard to breathe. See a doctor, you say? Well, if you have a little money, of course, you can go and see Dr. William Bird of Burrows Place. Oh, and Burrows Place has much grander houses than Morris Lane. Now, Dr. Bird is a good and kind man, and came here from a town right in the countryside. I learned when I collected his census form, a place called Crickhowell in the mountains near Brecon. If you want to see the doctor, you will have to pay for his services and medicines. I suppose that's why he can afford such a nice house, with a lot of rooms and even servants to look after him and his family. Unlike Mrs. John in Morris Lane, Mrs. Bird has young girls as servants who do the washing and cooking for her. How vastly different their lives are. Oh, but don't worry. Dr. Bird is a kind man and tries to help the poor here as well. After seeing paying patients, he will often open his surgery for the poorer people, like Mrs. John and her 5 children. He's even trying to improve the sewer system so that the dirty water is not spreading disease. He's also trying to ensure that there are good supplies of fresh, clean water for everyone in the town, for drinking, cooking, washing, and keeping clean. I must confess that I do visit one person whose hands are sometimes very black indeed. Mr. Ebenezer Pierce. But then there are very good reasons for that. He's a printer and uses black ink all day long. He came here from Bristol, printing things that are really in demand here in this growing town. Books, posters, leaflets, timetables for the new railway. And he's even produced a list of all the shops and tradespeople here in the town. Mr. Pierce also tries to help the poorer people of the city. Books can be too expensive for some to buy. Mrs. John can't even afford to send her children to school. But Mr. Pierce had a wonderful idea. He opened his own library so that for a small charge people could borrow a book and then return it in exchange for another. And the clever man even takes out books in his horse-drawn van to the small villages surrounding the town. Like Dr. Bird, he's doing a lot to make life better in our town. And things are getting better, aren't they? Just a little while ago, Mr. Brunel brought his wonderful railway, which lets us travel swiftly across the country, even as far as London. How things have changed. When I was a boy, the streets here were pitch dark at night. But now many of them are lit up with a new gas lighting. Of course, where there is no lighting, the streets can still be dangerous places, not only because you could trip or fall, but also because, as in all big towns, we still have those who will try to prey on the unwary and try to rob them. I know some people who have even been to visit Mr. Bernard Hennessy to buy themselves a pistol, just in case. Now there is a clever man, Mr. Hennessy. Not a Welshman. He came here from Ireland. There are a lot of Irish people living here in Swansea. Life got hard on the land in Ireland, and many farm workers lost their jobs and their homes. And hearing that there was work to be had here, they came across to Swansea. But the streets here were not paved with gold, and the copper works did not need their farming skills, so they ended up doing unskilled, low-paid jobs. But not Mr. Hennessy. Over in Dublin, he made scientific instruments, and there was a big market for them here in Wales. Ships sailing all over the world need navigation instruments to guide them, such as telescopes, compasses, accurate clocks, and sextants. A sextant is an instrument which allows the captain to work out how far north or south his ship is by working out the angle of the sun above the sea. And those are very things which Mr. Hennessy could provide. But as well as that, he makes surgical instruments. And as a sideline, he also imports revolvers from America. The city, of course, has rich families as well. They have such wonderful, grand houses. Well, people like the Dillwyns of Swansea. Of course, they don't live in these small houses, but live in the nicer parts, in places such as Penllygr, out of the smog of the city. They don't have jobs like those of Mr. Pierce or myself, but have lots of time to go hunting, and they have hobbies. Well, do you know Mr. Dillwyn Llewellyn has a camera? He and his sister and daughter enjoy capturing all sorts of things. Do you know, they even took a picture of the moon last year. Well, even the present Mr. Dillwyn's grandfather campaigned for a long time to end the barbarism of slavery. They were Quakers then, you know. And of course the late Lewis Dillwyn helped build a strong industry here that is putting Cymru Fach on the map. Though they may be rich, they have taken great care to look after the place they call home. It's a very interesting story indeed. Why not become detective yourself and find out more about the Dillwyns, or even your own patch of home? Well, I must be off now to carry on with collecting my census returns. Thank you for listening so well to all my little stories. Don't forget to complete your own return now, and I'll come and collect them. Da bo chi nawr.